Good morning, everybody. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Bill is not with us today. He is in Japan, and says he's having a good time over in Japan. So Shannon's here this morning with us, and at least I think it's Shannon. He put a disguise on, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Just waiting for Container Man to come in and see what's going on because I haven't seen him yet.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, that should be fun when that happens. As usual.
I saw him in chat. He's here.
Yeah.
Oh, is he here?
Oh, is he?
Then just
Well, he must be
hang on a
driving
second.
because he hasn't said anything yet.
I said something right away, Roy. So, of course, he went and combed his hair, and he's been twisting on that beard since. So, he should have seen
I
it
can
when
guarantee he's gonna. I can guarantee he'll probably pull over just to say something.
Yeah, he would. Anyway, good morning, guys. Good to see you again, and everybody in chat.
Yeah.
Hope you're had a good week and are having a good weekend so far. We don't have a guest today because I was going to have try and get somebody on, but I want Bill here when we do that. So he is in Japan, and he sent us. I will show you this right quick. He sent an email with a picture saying living life in. Well, let me get it pulled up here now. See, I had it there. Now it's gone. What happened?
Boy, chat is just flying by. Holy crap. Good morning,
What are we
everyone.
doing here? That's weird. Okay.
Roy says he's parked now.
Huh. Why is it not working? It's working
Yeah,
a while ago.
I'm going to try not to say anything bad, Shannon.
That doesn't sound like Roy. That's an imposter.
No. Well, what? Let's say good morning to everyone. We got a lot of Johns in. Well, if we got John 2618, we'd have 5 Johns in. My goodness.
Okay, here we go. I got it finally. Famous last words. There we go. Anyway, this is the picture that, excuse me, that Bill sent to us from the Cotto. I guess that's the hobby shop or the factory or whatever that they've got there. But anyway, I'm sure we'll have a lot of pictures for us when he gets back.
Sorry, that was my phone.
Roy's having trouble coming up with something good.
Felipe.
Yeah. No, I think he looks more like a pirate. He needs an eye patch and a parrot.
I like Felipe.
You like Felipe?
I like
Yeah.
Felipe.
So
That's
Steve,
my
did you go
cousin's
down the line up here this morning?
No, I didn't. Man, it's going by so fast. I hope I don't miss anybody. Got John Tanzillo, Mike. Good morning, Deep Run Railroad. John Grandpa Rails, Allison, Dave BNSF. We got Roy Hardwick. Hey, Chris Brew. Holy crap. Good morning, Chris. How are you? That's a long story. We got to get you on the show. Wow. Okay, and we got Stephen Wigwag. Jack, Allison, Stephen Wigwag. Did I say John Tanzillo? I forget.
Yes.
Yep.
I did Schuylkill River Valley, John. We got Tammy and Ray. Good morning.
Claude, I'll send you a few photos to
John-
show the people after Steve's finished too.
John Bennett, Dwight Curley. That's cool. Hey, Chris, how are you doing, man? Chris,
Did you get Mark Pruitt and John A. Dawson
Mark? Okay, Mark.
and John Benacki's here? And who else did I see come in? Did you get Mike at Deep Run Railroad?
I think I
Cheers.
did.
Excuse me.
Yeah, Chris.
Give me a
Brew-
second. Let's see if I can clear my throat.
Chris Brew is one of our go-to guys in the live steam hobby. He knows everything about everything.
Well, maybe he can build us a steam engine and send it over.
He could.
We do it cheap.
Oh, sorry about that. Throat was clogging up on me. Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say now.
Oh,
Yeah.
John, also John Dawson. He popped in.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, Steve's been working on something on his loco. Tell us what you've been working on your loco that's not, you don't think it's going to work.
Oh, well, nothing fancy. I ran a water line underneath my fuel car because I built I don't know if you know it, Chris, but I built a water tender flat for, because up at Train Mountain, 3 gallons of water didn't go very far. So I had long story short is I had a 5-gallon propane that it's going to be an auxiliary water tender for behind the locomotive. Really good, but I wanted the option of maybe running it between the fuel car and the caboose, and I ran a water line underneath the fuel car yesterday, but I don't know if my injector is going to be strong enough to pull water that far between between the fuel car and the tender. But that's all I've really been doing. Nothing fancy. Got to get it out and run it. But nothing. I haven't really been doing it.
But you haven't done anything besides that?
No.
You sound like me. I haven't. I did build one curved turnout this week, but I haven't gotten near what I need yet for the track plan that I want to do. But I've got most of the buildings done. I just got a couple left. I think that's going to go on there, and I've got a pretty good idea what I want to do. But until I go further along, I'm not going to show anything. So there's nothing really to see. It's all piecemeal. It's nothing like Dennis. I don't do my stuff like Dennis does his stuff. Dennis got stuff to show even when he doesn't have stuff to show. I just don't do it that way. So
Sometimes you just got to have stuff.
I know. That's the thing. I put my stuff on the layout. I do it on the layout. I don't do it, and I sure don't build a model of a model. But I thought that was pretty funny. You had Jerry going last week. He didn't know what that was.
Model of a model? Yes.
Don't put ideas in my
that and
head.
just laughed and laughed.
Don't put ideas in my head. I've already looked into doing a model of a model for HO, and I've long forgotten about that till now.
Yeah. Well, Dennis's is pretty intricate, actually, as far as one of those things go. But
Well, he was showing us his little barbershop sign that he made. It looks awesome, except one side of it is off center, and he doesn't like it. He's going to make another one.
yeah, that's pretty
look
sad.
at this side of where the barber's pole is, and look at that side. There's clearly a scale 2-foot difference between the two. I can't live with that. Not to mention that the actual barber's poles are not they're not a mirror image of each other, which is another thing that bugs me. But I'll live with that because you can't see that they're not a mirror image from this. But you can see the difference between the left and the right on the sign.
I'm surprised you didn't print it.
What do you mean?
Like draw it up on the computer and then print it out or something.
Well, I mean, it's a download. I did get it off the computer, but I didn't create the graphic, no. Although, if I wanted to spend the time in figuring out a program to print my own graphics, which I will to some degree, I don't really enjoy that kind of thing. I just don't.
Yeah.
I do things on the computer out of duress and pure need, not because I want to or enjoy it.
Yeah, I've still got several signs to have to make for mine, but I won't be quite that particular about them. Mine have to be would have to be pretty bad stuff for the average person to see. But if I was going to be taking pictures of it for a magazine or something, then I might be more particular about it. But something like on that sign wouldn't bug me in the least. But then it's not my layout, so there you go.
Claude, I sent you some photos so you can put them up to show people of what I've been doing with. Whoa,
Hang on here.
Let's see.
Let me get them off the phone here.
Let's see, Chris, you answered. Let's see, it's one idea: put an axle pump on the water car and pump the water to the tender with a return line on the high level. This will pump the water car empty before the tender level starts to drop. So that means that the water tank would have to be pressurized and sealed. So I'd have to unseal it every time we put water in it.
Oh, there it is.
I guess.
Okay.
Where did Claude go?
Really need to do.
I'm getting these pictures off my phone to show you guys that Shannon sent.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm just talking to Chris. I think my best idea is to just run the water car behind the tender and eliminate that. So I really don't need to put the water car between the caboose and the fuel car, really.
Let's see here. Carry on, folks. I'm just going to see if I can get this done here.
What are you trying to do?
Well,
It's not what I'm trying to do. It's what I've done. I sent Claude some photos so I can show everyone.
Oh, okay.
In saying that,
but it's
looking at the chat between Container Man and Ali, I am Jacques, from the detective from the Orient Express.
Okay.
And there's the head jokes from Roy.
Oh man.
Good morning, Crystal.
Steve says hi, Crystal.
Or should I say good day?
Good day.
Good day.
She can't hear you because I got the headphones on.
Mm. Well, you guys all talk funny.
We do not talk funny.
Yeah, you do.
No, we don't.
Y'all drive on the wrong side of the road, too.
What? Talk funny.
Yeah, because of our accent.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what's sad? The amount of American cartoons here in Australia, all our kids are starting to talk like Americans.
That's scary.
Scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's scary because there's been a couple of times where people have met Alex and they straight away go to me and go, "Is his mum American?" I'm like, "No, she's as Aussie can be." Why? Why does he have an American accent? Does he?
With all of that bad hair, we couldn't see the headphones.
Allie says blame Sesame Street.
Nah, it's not Sesame Street.
What is a cuppa to you?
Cup of tea.
Okay, Shannon.
We got 28 people in chat.
28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could not get them downloaded off of there. I don't have Messenger on my computer. I've only got it on my phone. So I have to transfer it over, and it's not wanting to let me do the whole group at one time. So I will get those downloaded and we'll show them next week. But you've got it there in front of you.
Yeah. Well, I've got the finished product in front of me. So I decided to make a display for my ON3. I don't know how well. Actually, hang on. If I do this, that'll probably be a bit better. So what you're seeing there is maybe 3 hours of work. I used Northeast scale lumber, Pico track pins, Code 100 rail, and I 3D printed some 85 to 100 foot-pound tie plates.
Your ties are too symmetrical.
What do you mean too symmetrical?
They're all perfectly straight.
Yeah, but I see one that's offset a little bit.
Actually, they're not actually perfectly, well, they're in line, if that's what you're saying, but I purposely split the wood so that way these edges, the long edges, are actually not machined straight.
Okay.
But the ballast kind of covered it up anyway, so.
Well, it's a
Yeah,
well-maintained line, Steve.
Okay. Whatever.
But no, it came out really good.
But it'd be the
Yeah.
first narrow gauge well-maintained line I've ever seen. Because most of the narrow gauge lines were not very well maintained.
Yeah, so to give you an idea, that's how I had how I bought the lumber. And then as you can see, I cut off some edges to make the edges, not so uniform. And then those are the pieces I got left over with per large piece. Does that make sense?
Yep. Oh, it looks good. You did a good job on it.
Yeah. And
Sorry.
And that was before, I did all the scenery and that on it.
So those are 3D printed tie plates. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
And you use regular track pins as opposed to spikes.
Yeah, I use regular track pins, Pico, part number SL14s.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm familiar with those. Yeah.
Yeah, because they were nice and thin. The head of them's wrong because they're a round head, but if I tried to use an actual proper track spike, the ones that I could easily get, they were too big, in my opinion. So,
yeah. Well, even the ones I used.
Did you pre-drill a hole?
So when I 3D printed,
were you able to just push them through?
So when I 3D printed the tie plates, I actually 3D printed them with holes. And then all I did was just put the nail in, press it down with a pair of pliers, and job done.
It's hot.
Yeah, the spikes I used when I was hand spiking mine, the vast majority of it I use medium spikes, which are really too big.
Yeah.
If I was going to do it again, I'd do the micro spikes. The problem with the micro spikes is they are really small. So, it was hard enough with the medium spikes, but with the micro spikes, it would be really tedious work. It would work okay. And the only problem with the large spikes or the medium spikes, is
These are the micro
you've got to
spikes.
make sure you get the head in. You almost have to put them in at an angle. You can't put them straight down. You have to go in an angle and just barely catch the rail, because if you don't, then you have, especially on the inside of the rail, then your wheel flanges will hit it. But for the most part, it's not too bad.
Yeah, well, look, it looks the part. I mean, unless you look at it up close, you can't really tell anyway. But yeah,
That's a medium spike.
So it's a micro medium. This says small.
Small, huh?
Small is what the bottle says. The bottle.
Those are micro engineering.
Yeah, part number 3106.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't know that I got mine from Fast Tracks. I might have, but they didn't come in a container like that. They came in a plastic.
They bend pretty easy. When I was doing my turntable, I had to pre-drill every one of them to keep them from, collapsing
No, I've been a bunch of mine.
You know, I was going into plywood, so I had to do something. So
Yeah, that's where the cork, when I put the cork over the top of the plywood, then that gave me something to spike to without having to go all the way in. I did a lot of spiking where I took the spike and cut half the spike off
that's what I ended up
and
doing.
then spiked it. And then there were some spikes, and I don't know which ones they were, but they were a little bit longer, and they had a better shaped head on them. The head wasn't that flat smash. You know how they do the wire? They get the wire and then they just smash that head. These weren't like that. They were almost like a cast head. More, not quite a button top head, but done like that. But they had a hook on them, and those really were good ones. But I don't know where I got them because I bought so much of my stuff off eBay that was stuff that people just had left over and stuff like that. So, but I ended up with a bunch of those, and I would use them in certain situations where I was having trouble keeping the track where I wanted it. Those came in really handy. But yeah, the longer spikes, if you're not prepared for that, like if you're not on homosote or on foam, something like that, and you go to put it in and you got plywood under there, you have a rough time getting it in.
Yeah. No, like with mine was just on some cork on top of foam. But yeah, no, for me to try and find anything, I guess, suffice, you know, for anything from micro engineering or anything like that, the shipping just kills it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Steve Anderson wants to know if it's just him or should Shannon have a watermelon and a big mallet to demo the Smash-O-Matic? I think he'd look better with a parrot on his shoulder myself. Anyway,
give it a few more months. I'll be able to tie all this back. So
I still can't believe Roy hadn't come up with something really good.
He's trying to be
nice.
between
him and Ali, they were going on about how I'm one of the main characters in the Murder on the Orient Express. So
there you go.
I'm the detective or whatever they call. So.
Well, I got to get, like I say, I got to get Michael McCarville on here. Mike, you need to come on the show. Maybe next week or the week after. Yeah, like I say,
actually, recently I've been seeing a lot of McCarville's what's it called, merchandise popping up on Facebook on just random train pages. I'm like, oh no, what's he done now?
Well, he's doing most of the stuff. I think he's doing is for Colorado Southern, because I think that's the layout he's going to do. A lot of it was
Colorado Southern or Rio Grande Southern.
Rio Grande Southern. I'm sorry, not Colorado Southern. Rio Grande Southern. Most of it's what he's doing is from that I've seen anyway, from like Placerville and Dallas Divide and Ridgeway and places like that. So it'd be interesting to see his layout when he gets around to it. If he's got time now that he's doing this business part.
Yeah, we've been waiting.
The modeling kind of stops after that.
Just cross our fingers because it's going to be fantastic. I have no doubt.
Oh, I have no doubt too.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like with me doing multiple scales, work.
There you go, Dennis.
Ooh,
yeah.
What's the dimensions, Mike?
Yeah, what's the dimension going to be, Mike? Is it going to be big enough to get it?
Can I turn a K37 on it?
I think it's going to be more of a what sizes?
Yeah, maybe more of a C19 size. But
now Ali's jumping in the bandwagon with you, Claude, saying I should be a pirate.
Southern, more than likely. I don't know what they actually had. I'm not real familiar with everything with the Rio Grande Southern.
Yeah, the one I got from the guy in England was the Durango turntable. So I knew I could get a K36 on it if I had one. But it was still looks really good. It's a really good one. Yeah, Durango will turn anything. That's right. It's pretty good size. It's not huge. It's not as big as what, 110 footer that you'd get on one of the Walthers turntables or something like that. But it's, I forgot what the dimension is, 65 feet, something like that. Anyway,
well, that's like us here in Victoria. A lot of our turntables from memory were all basically 70 feet. Like there was the odd larger one at a major station, but at smaller stations and whatnot, or at the end of the line, from memory, they were all 70 footers.
Yeah. Well, I know it'll turn anything that's narrow gauge. So that's good. And then I've got that other one that I offered to Dennis that's a 50 footer, but it'll only probably do a C19 or smaller on it, which is the era it would come from anyway.
I want to be able to turn at least a K27 everywhere on the railroad. So
yeah.
It's called the hand of God, Dennis.
Yeah, just spin it.
The 050.
Yeah. There you go. And I was going to ask Dennis something, or not Dennis, Michael something, but I forgot what it was. Anyway, Michael, I will get you. I wanted Bill to be here when you're here. That's why I haven't contacted you yet. Uh-oh, Dennis has got, now what do you got here?
My latest scratch build. And this particular building, it's completely made up. I looked at a map, a Sanborn map, and decided that this building is what I was looking at. And it has a split personality. So there's a dentist's office in the front, and then a barber shop on the back. And the concept is that this faces both Gregory Street and Sealack Street, while this faces Blackhawk Street. So I'm not finished with it yet. I got to do, the stuff on top and the stuff going across, and same thing here. Because it's all my imagination. I'm not 100% sure what the end product is going to look like, but I've got it. And again, it's 2x4. I've also got this, which will be the butcher shop. And this one I think will go pretty quick. The only interesting thing about this particular build will be the awning, and because it's got a pretty good sized porch on it. And so I'm going to draw that out. I'm hoping to get started on this weekend. I've got this, which will be, do the tenants of the building use a split outhouse behind it? I don't know. There's definitely going to be a stairwell behind it. I don't know if I'll have room for an outhouse. We'll have to see. This is going to be the Cracker Bakery. And again, it's one of those things where I got to put the finishing touches and figure out exactly how much of this I'm going to notch out, because it will have a inset storefront on it. And I've got this is almost ready to go, which will be a little Trackside cafe. And I've got another couple of chunks of wood that's all I have to do is, 4 or 5 cuts, and I'll be ready to go with skin and nose. I'm trying to pump out these buildings as fast as I can, because I'm really ready to start doing some terraforming in Silver Gulch.
Terraforming, that sounds good. Yeah, it's going to look good. Like I say, standing in the room there and having you explain your concept, I can see it. I can visualize what you might be trying to go for. Maybe not exactly, but I can get a good idea. But like I say, on video, it's so hard to tell what you want to do. But when you're standing there, it becomes a lot more evident what's happening. And, there again, I do the same thing as far as looking at mine, and I'll have an idea what I want to do, and I just start doing mine. And if I don't like it, then I'll take it off and I'll redo it. But I don't, I don't go and make a model. If I'm going to spend the time, I'm going to put it on the layout. But that's just the difference in how each of us does it. And if it works for you, it works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I like to do it. I can see what I want to do and I can build it.
Yeah, I'll never regret the time spent on my mock-ups. To me, it's so worth being able to manipulate and develop the scene in a way that is three-dimensional. You can only do that in your head so much.
Well, you're going off of photographs too. You're trying to make it look so much like the photograph, which I'm not doing. Mine's completely fictional, so I can make it however I want. And I did that for that reason, because I wouldn't be tied into having something just so. But there again, that's just the difference in how you want to do your modeling.
Well, that's like me as well. Like for one of my layouts, I'm using I guess lack of a better description, I wouldn't say they're blueprints, but you could kind of see them as blueprints, if that makes sense. But I'll put them into the 3D drawing software, redraw what I want and then 3D print it. It's kind of the same thing, between the three of us. I'm not sure what Steve does, unless he wants to chime in, but there's three of us and we're all doing our own thing in three different ways, to achieve what we want.
Yeah, Steve. So what was your process of building the cab for your loco and your cars that you built?
The process?
Yeah. I mean, did you just have something in your head that you wanted to do and just did that in place?
Yeah, I didn't have any plans. I just built as I went. I kind of had an idea.
Did you draw anything out first?
I did with the cab, because I did have to lay out some blueprints for that, and because I had a certain size, I had to work around the board. So I kind of made a jig for the wood around it. With all the tongue and groove, I just kind of built it as I went. But I had an idea in my head what I wanted to do. It was just basic, woodworking skills. Just on a smaller scale. But I never have plans. I just build as I go.
Which reminds me to tell everybody, and you guys might already know, but Jerry's doing the bench work for Heath's layout that he's getting ready to do. But he said he might pop in later, but I haven't seen him. So I'm not sure what he was doing, if he was working today or what he was doing. I don't think he told us, but anyway.
No, he didn't.
That's what I figured he's doing. He's probably sawing up a bunch of 13 ply plywood.
Some expensive stuff. It's outrageous what plywood's gone to now. I mean, I was in Home Depot about 2 weeks ago and it's just blowing my mind. I was just like, thank God I'm just getting OSB, because there's no way I'd use cabinet grade plywood for a model railroad. That's just not, to me, that's way too much money and overkill for what the model need, or, for what a layout would need. But people that want to do it that way, that's fine. Especially if you're cutting your own joists and stuff like that for it. If you're doing that and cutting everything, like I know Mark Pruitt uses a lot of plywood to make all of his stuff like that. I just use dimensional lumber for most of mine. Most of mine's 1x4 that I maybe ripped down to 1x2 or 1x3. But the plywood, there's not any cabinet grade plywood on my layout. It's all mostly OSB, and there might be some other, unfinished plywood in it. But if I had some scraps laying around, but I did not go buy cabinet grade plywood, thank goodness, because it would have cost me a lot more than it did. Because OSB now, it used to be about $7, $8 a sheet. Now it's up to about $15, $16 a sheet. So that's gone up quite a bit. But cabinet grade plywood is almost $100 a sheet. And it, 3/4 anyway. And to me, that's just crazy to spend that kind of money for what you're using it for.
I think it depends on the size of your layout, though, too. And
Well, that's true. Yeah, yeah. And there again, it depends. If you want to do it that way, that's fine. But to me, I'm not going to spend that kind of money on it.
Especially if you're planning to move something, if that's in the plans, I want to be able to disassemble, keep things in a unit with everything still attached. 3/4 is probably a better idea than 1/2 inch.
If I was doing in-track or Fremo or something, doing modules, I would definitely be using better grade lumber because you're moving it all the time. But mine's all built in place, so I don't have to worry about that. Plus, I'm in a temperature controlled area. I don't have that temperature fluctuation, so I don't have a lot of expansion contraction to worry about. If I did, I sure wouldn't use OSB because it can do that a lot. Even though they use it for roof sheeting, it can be really bad. There he is.
Oh.
There he is. His ears
He must have
burning.
knew we were talking about him.
Yeah.
And I just forgot about the time. Making parts.
Making parts. There you go.
Yeah.
A bunch of them names.
Riverside transfer right there.
They're everywhere.
With the whole thing, as we were talking about it with building layouts and prices of wood, only way I'm avoiding the prices is I'm just building pine frames and filling them with foam.
Hey everybody, I can't see chat, so
Okay. Well, we were just talking about plywood and well, just lumber in general and cost of it and what you're building your layout out of.
yeah,
Not necessarily, but in general.
yeah,
Because like I was telling him, because I'm in a controlled environment,
yeah.
I'm using a lot of OSB for my sub road bed. I know I don't need any more than that. I don't need cabinet grade plywood. If I was going to do a module where it was going to be moved all the time or something like Bill did, where his big modules,
Oh yeah,
and you're going to move them around a lot. Yeah, that's a different story.
yeah.
But mine's all built in place, so I did not go that route because of the cost. And anymore, plywood, Jerry knows how much plywood costs.
What you're doing and what you can afford. And,
Yeah. How much is 3/4 cabinet grade there?
it's like saying how much is a donut?
I know it changes every time I go in. It's different.
I bet it's a little more than
There's
a
all kinds
donut.
of donuts. There's all kinds of plywood, cabinet grade. There's a lot of different.
Well,
Yeah, it can be as cheap as $60, or it could be as cheap as or as expensive as I don't know. I never bought expensive stuff, but I guess it could be $200-300. I don't know.
Yeah.
Depends what's on
Yeah.
the veneer,
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, I wasn't really talking about veneer. Just a
yeah,
good.
just like average, probably about $80
Yeah.
for
But no, and that's
a
a
cabinet
sub
grade. Yeah, a cabinet grade that might have some voids in it. Be good one face. Maybe $60. It just depends, You buy maples different than birch, faced, cost wise, where it comes from. China's cheaper. You can probably get China plywood for I don't know, $60 or $50, but it's not very good.
They're going to have holes in it and
Oh
little
yeah, it's
chunks of
gonna
metal.
have a lot of voids in it. The top
Yeah.
veneer is going to be thin. If you're painting it, it's no big deal. But if you're sanding it to stain it or something, then you can sand right through it. So it's like literally, it's
I
like
think that's what
yeah. How much are donuts? Yeah,
Well, it's like, I do I buy a lot of 1x4 or 1x material and I cut it down to what I want.
right.
And a lot of that has got a sticker on made in Sweden.
Yeah.
I think they meant grown in Sweden, but,
Yeah. So like
but
you
it's
could go to the
weird
box.
that we would be getting lumber from Sweden. But
You can go to the box store and buy construction 2x4s for like $3 and some cents, right? But how many do you have to sort through to get some decent ones, right? Or you could go down to a local lumber yard that's a good lumber yard, buying a premium 2x4, and maybe you might pay $1 more and not have to sort through nothing. You know, so what do you want to do? Do you want to spend your time sorting through stuff and picking stuff, or do you want to get to work?
Yeah. If you don't need very many,
No,
sorting through it's not a big deal.
Yeah, no, if you need 1 or 2 to sort through, 5, 6, but if you got to get 20, 30, you know, whatever.
Well, because you'll have to go through 20
exactly.
8-foot 2x4s to get a good one.
Yeah, you'll have literally. Yeah,
So
you'll
if you have to have 20 of them, that's the whole bundle that you're going to have to go through to get 20 good ones.
And then most of the time, that stuff's wet.
Yep.
And then, like, now it's going to change when it dries in your shop or when you bring it home. So what was straight might not be straight. It tries that. Yeah, you know, there's material for every pocketbook.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
It depends what you want to put up with.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about. We were talking about that was the cost versus what you're getting for what you're using it for. And for me, a model train doesn't need 3/4 inch plywood to run on. If it's built in place, to me that's overkill. But it also depends on the environment it's sitting in and what you want to spend on it.
Well, as I said, it's like with me. I built my NN3 stuff. I built that on a pine frame. I used 3mm plywood, which I think is like 1/32 of an inch thick. You should translate it. And then I just glued 2-inch foam on top of that. Like really, I only used the such thin plywood just so there's something for the foam to glue on, and that thing would support my whole body weight quite easily.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, I mean, my little module that for my end scale, it's 28 inches deep, 60 inches long. I built it out of 1x3 poplar just because I had it. And I didn't put no plywood. I just put foam on top, and that's it. I mean, I'm not standing on it. It makes it lightweight. I can take it anywhere if I want to. So.
Well, in fact, I wouldn't have used any plywood on mine had Homosoap been more readily available than it is. It used to be, back in the 50s and 60s, and you see some of these layout books.
Yeah, everybody built stuff
when these were printed. Homosoap was the #1 thing to use.
Yeah, cheap, get it anywhere.
Sound deadening.
Yeah,
takes track spikes real well.
Yeah,
you can cut it.
Order it here for sure.
Yeah. I had to go to Home Depot and order it, and then they sent me over to the wholesale lumber place that had it, and I stood there for an hour waiting to get 2 sheets of it, and that's back 3 years ago. So I don't even know. And I had to cull through those to get 2 decent ones because it was sitting out where it could get wet.
Oh wow!
And they didn't do it very good, but nobody buys it anymore.
Yeah.
If for anything they use it for flat top roof, and then they tar over it.
Yeah.
But they just don't use it like they used to. It is kind of messy to cut and stuff, but it's fantastic for a sub road bed. Fantastic for that. But it's hard to find. So
I've seen guys use it for spline road bed, and they actually soaked it like in a PVC tube before they started bending it. I recall, it's been a while, but
there was
with masonite.
There was a place. I think they were in Oregon. They were in Washington, Oregon, that sold Homosoap road bed. Actually, in the shape of road bed. Have you got some of that?
Yeah.
I saw that.
Had to wait like 6 weeks to get it, and then I wasn't really happy with it once I got it. I'll never use it.
And it wasn't cheap.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I remember it not being cheap because when I bought this sheet of Homosoap, I was cutting some of my own on the first time I started the layout, and I ended up not liking going that way. And
Yeah,
I
I still
still
got
have-
it.
I still have a little bit. I wish I had enough to do the top deck where that town's going to sit, because I would have used it for that, but I just didn't have enough of that left.
I'll tell you, Homosote's really fun to cut. It makes
Oh,
a
it's a
nice-
mess.
very-
It's a horrible mess. You definitely want to wear a mask.
That's why
if
you
you're cutting
use a
it on
knife
table
instead of a
saw.
saw.
Say again?
That's why you use a knife instead of a saw.
Oh,
Yeah, you
that
cut-
takes
you cut it on
forever
a
to go
table
through the
saw?
Homosote with a knife.
Does it?
Yeah, it's very dense, very, very dense. Think about taking a phone book and trying to cut through that with a box knife.
Yeah.
That's what Homosote would be like, cutting it with a knife. But you can cut it with a table saw, skill saw, jigsaw, but it's going to be a lot of dust, because basically what it is paper pressed together. And it's,
Is there anything that binds it, like holds it together?
I'm not sure how they actually make it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they roll it through something and press it together, but I don't know
Good
the
question. I don't
process.
know.
I reckon it'll be a similar process to how they make MDF, just using a glue, high pressure.
I don't know that it's got any glue in it, but it could have.
It'd have to have some agent
Yeah.
in it just to
But it
keep
probably
together.
does. When you're cutting it, you don't notice anything. All you get is paper dust.
Yeah.
And it is, like I say, it is very, very messy. So you definitely want to wear some kind of mask or respirator or something when you're cutting it, because it can get in your lungs real easy. But there again, it's a fantastic sub roadbed material. And I've seen guys use it for spline, cut it in, 1.25 1.5 strips, and then put them on edge like you did with the masonite, so you can bend it.
Okay.
You could do it that way. For big broad curves. Now you couldn't do anything sharp, you'll break.
Well,
bend it too sharp.
you
it'll
can
snap.
soak it. If I remember right, you can soak it in water and you can get it to bend a little bit sharper than if you don't.
Okay, here we go. Thank you, Paul. Homosote is made with 55% recycled, all cellulose fiber material, completely impregnated with fire retardant chemical ingredients. I didn't know it had all that in it, but I knew it was cellulose, which is paper.
Probably known to cause cancer in the state of California.
Yeah.
If you,
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. And like I say, you definitely don't want to breathe the stuff, because I don't know that it's poisonous, but it would sure clog up your lungs.
Yeah, it's not good, right?
Yeah, but it's probably a good thing it's hard to get, because it is a mess to cut unless you've got the wherewithal to, tools and stuff to cut it. And you wouldn't want to cut it in the house. If you do, make sure you got a vacuum running that's sucking it all up as you cut it, because it's
treated for protection against termites, rot, fungus, and moisture absorption, and compressed into high density structural exterior building board.
Yep. And it's like I say, they used to use it for roofing material. I have dug through some of it on flat roof commercial buildings. You get through under the tar, then you got 2 inches full of this cellulose board, and then there might be plywood underneath that, but usually there wasn't. There would just be that, and it was like digging through a phone book. I mean, you can drill into it and that kind of thing, and like I say, it holds spikes really well, but you're not going to cut it with a knife. It's a mess. Oh, Paul said that was all per Wikipedia, which is probably pretty close. I mean, I don't know how we got off on that, but even half inch board is stout enough to span a pretty good distance. So if you're, especially in a climate controlled area, you're not going to get a lot of movement from it. I don't know how much it expands and contracts out in the weather.
Fence plywood?
I'm sorry?
Did you say like half-inch plywood?
No, half-inch Homosote.
Oh, it comes in thicknesses?
Well, the one I got was half-inch thick.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in fact, well, I'm not going to bother to take you out there. I've got some out in the shop, but yeah, it's a good material for for model railroad, but there again, it's messy, and it wasn't cheap, wasn't super expensive. nothing like plywood is now, but I don't know what the homoset would be now either.
Not what you think it would be, right? For what it is, you think it would be cheap, right?
Well, it was more expensive than OSB,
Right.
but it's not as expensive as regular plywood.
Right.
Or at least it wasn't when I bought it. But that was 3 years ago, almost 4 years
So
ago.
why didn't you just get OSB?
I did. That's what I did most of the layout with OSB. And I've either put cork road bed on it, or I've put sheet cork on top. So all of the new, the mining district that I did, all of that is covered with cork, 1/4 inch cork. And then everything I'm going to do on the top that I've got left to do is all going to be done with cork. And I use contact cement, put it on both pieces, and then stick it down and use a roller and roll it down. And you can cut it with a skill saw after you put the cork on it if you want, or a jigsaw or anything else, drill through it. But it gives you that same sound deadening without having to go get homosoap and have all the mess of homosoap.
Makes
But,
sense. Yeah, Dennis, I watched your update. I watched your update, Dennis. I like what you did with houses. That's pretty cool.
Thanks. This coming weeks will be I hate to use the term step by step, but it's going to be all about how I created these.
How you make them? Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing for the next several months. I'm not sure. It's going to be a matter of time management, and because I can only do so much until I have the finished buildings. But
how many buildings are you going to have?
There's between 19 and 25 in
That's
that.
all? With your whole layout?
No. Just in that town.
Oh.
You don't have a lot of buildings.
Yeah.
Are you going to do all your buildings like that, or you have some kits?
All of the buildings that lend themselves to that shape and size, that I can easily get out of two pieces of 2x4, and
Gotcha.
or a little more than two pieces, maybe three glued 2x4s together. Anything bigger than that, I will probably use plywood. I've got some Baltic birch 3/8 plywood that I'm going to use for the bigger buildings, and then I've got two really fine scale detailed kits that will go to the far left end. That will be the feature of the entire town.
I was reading what Heath was saying he was going to do with his. He's not planning on using any cork or foam or anything under the track, so he needs the wood to be flat. For the most part, plywood's going to be flat. I would definitely go with plywood as opposed to OSB if you're not going to put anything under it.
Yeah, but some plywood won't stay flat. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the stuff you get, does it have a thin veneer, or is every ply the exact same thickness?
No, the center you can't really see, right?
Hang on, Jerry. Let me look at the big. I'm sorry, I was reading.
The ends are thinner, right? The centers are definitely thicker, but yeah, I'm pretty sure.
But it's not like a paper thin veneer.
No, it might be like I don't know how to measure 30 seconds. I don't know what a 30-second looks like. Not quite, it's not as thin as a 16th. Well, it's not as thick as a 16th. I don't know what it is, but it's pretty thin, but not, super thin. There's a thin layer, a thick, and then another thin. So there's a lot going on, and I'm pretty confident that this will stay flat.
That many layers, it should.
Oh yeah.
For forever.
The only thing I didn't like about mine was that the veneer on the top was so thin that I got concerned that any little bit of moisture on it might make it delaminate from the rest of the plies.
Right.
That's why I decided I wasn't ever going to get any more of that.
Well, so I don't know if you follow Boomer, right? But Boomer, for all of his, it seemed like, I'm not 100% sure, but for all of his Baltic birch faces and like his layout surface where he was doing, he put down clear coat first. He
Yeah.
cleared it, and then that's what he started to apply everything to. You know, his paints, his weathering, I guess his ballast, everything
Glues.
went on that. So nothing really soaked beyond that, you know. And obviously it's meant for finish, so finish won't delaminate it, but maybe like pouring all kinds of diluted glue, I don't know what it would do.
That was my concern, which I wasn't concerned about the staging yard because I'm not going to do any of that, or at least I might. I haven't decided 100% for sure, but that was how I rationalized it at the time.
As far as the finished layer, the veneer layer bubbling up, it just depends on how good of plywood it is. Because I have seen that happen if it gets real wet. Now, I'm not talking about a finish, like Jerry said, it's made for that, to hold up to that. But if it's sat and had water sitting on it, like if you took a glass of iced tea in a hot day and you set it on there and left it overnight, you come out, it's gonna be bubbled up in the morning.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, there again, it depends on how good the plywood is. But if it's the raw wood, there's a good chance it could do that. I haven't noticed anything with the OSB, and the OSB, you may or may not know, is rough on one side and smooth on the other side. And when I say smooth, it's almost like
they put something on it. Yeah, they probably do.
It's very smooth.
Yeah.
And if you use that side up, you're not going to have any problem. Now, I have had one or two strands try to pop up on the edges where I've cut it and it got wet, but most of the cases, it's not a huge problem.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, I don't know if anybody's ever worked with AZAC. You know, once you cut that finished top or get in past that finished top on it, it kind of holds dirt and looks crappy, and it's not as durable as it once was when that coating was on top, like that OSB is.
Mm-hmm. Well, then the OSB is the same way. Once you cut it, if moisture can get to the edge of that, it can get underneath it.
Yeah, it's going to wick in.
But I've not had any, you know.
I think you'll be all right.
Very bad problem.
It probably won't happen in your lifetime.
No. Well, in most of my cases, it's getting cork on it anyway, of some kind. And very few places that are finished off that didn't have something else on there besides the OSB. I've got very few spots where it's plain OSB.
I'm kind of curious why Heath isn't using any cork. Like, how's he going to?
Yeah, I would like to know his rationale for that too. I'm curious.
I guess it's all like yards, and like he's just going to ballast right onto the track, like right onto.
That's what I use the cork sheet for. Right. Because you've got that wide flat instead of having to use, you know, strips of cork roadbed. That doesn't work very good for a yard.
Yeah.
Not that you can't use it, but you've got all the valleys in between each track. But if you want a good flat surface, the sheet cork is perfect. I think, anyway.
Yeah, it depends what you want to do and how involved you want to get.
You can paint it, you can glue onto it, you can spike onto it. It's, you know, it's pretty universal as far as how it holds stuff.
That's why I like cork, is because I guess I'm never 100% confident that my track plan isn't going to change, so I don't want to glue anything. And the ability to use track spikes and then and then confirm that this is the way I like it and make changes as needed, then you can come back and glue it on later. Where if you're just straight plywood, and of course it might depend on if you have the ability to print your track plan and you know your track plan is going to work and mark everything on the plywood, that's great. I just don't have any way to print a track plan and know that it's going to work just on pure plywood. I think it's valid.
You should talk to Heath. He has somebody printing his track plan. There's people who do it. I think it's not that expensive and it might be worth it.
Well, if you have a program that you can send someone, I used Empire Express, and it's just this side of free.
I don't know. I think Heath used any route.
I used the same thing, and it was strictly to get a rough idea of what I wanted. In fact, when I went back into it to think about doing the track plan for the top level, the town, I started, and I 15 minutes later I quit because it was not going to do what I knew I could do with the track, just because of what the components that were in that are already set up to use. I could have you can build turnouts to the dimension you want and stuff, but I didn't want to go through all that either. I'd rather just build the actual turnouts and put them up there, and then I can tell what I need. But yeah, somebody said something about would paint or something waterproof that, and the answer to most things is yes, after the paint is cured. But what's it going to do before it cures? And whether you're oil paint or water base, it's still got moisture in it. So if the material is susceptible to the moisture, it can still do some of that. But for the most part, yeah, you can.
I think it'll be all right.
Yeah. I use craft paints. The craft paints are latex on all my stuff. The only thing that's not is spray paints for painting the track. But that's our hour, guys. Actually, we're a little over.
See you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. Jerry, glad you got to pop in. And Shannon,
good to see you.
Get a haircut.
No.
Get a haircut.
Steve, take care, Dennis.
Send us some when you get a cut.
Thanks for coming.
Use it.
And
see you, everybody.
Hanging out while we talk about wood like a bunch of termites.
There you go.
Have a good weekend and a good week.
See you guys later.
See you next weekend.
Bye-bye. See you guys.
See y'all.